Hi everyone, welcome back to Real Patriot Patty. I'm your host Patty, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking to you about Vice President Kamala Harris visiting an abortion clinic by Planned Parenthood in Minnesota, which is the first time ever in United States history that a person in her position ever visited an abortion clinic. Now, this comes from an administration who gaslights, manipulates, indoctrinates, and brainwashes its followers, especially women, considering the fact that they are the ones that issue an executive order changing Title IX, which allows biological men now to become women, where whatever you identify as or feel as, you can be a woman. So they are standing for a woman's reproductive rights, which is what they call it. But in reality, they're taking away rights from women and now advertising and promoting abortions of killing babies in a womb that will never get the chance to live. In today's video, I'm going to be briefly covering the story of Kamala Harris' visit, but I will be addressing the importance of understanding as young girls and young women what feminism really is, what abortion is, and how the manipulation, indoctrination, and brainwashing created not for women, but against women, and how important it is to really understand it, to fight against these lies that are against not only women, little babies, but our society as a whole. First, to cover the story, Kamala Harris is actually in charge of the border that she has never been to, but instead of going to the border, she created a tour visiting a few states, visiting abortion clinics. Planned Parenthood is the biggest abortion provider within the United States. Here are a couple statistics. Planned Parenthood reported $1.9 billion in income and over $2.3 billion in net assets comparing to previous year. In 2023, there were 1,026,700 abortions. That means over 1 million lives of little babies were taken away from them. So this is a first time ever in United States history that a vice president or president made a visit to an abortion provider, especially the biggest one, such as Planned Parenthood. Now, the chief medical officer of Planned Parenthood said this was a historic moment. And Kamala Harris herself said, "I'm here at this health clinic, not an abortion clinic, a health clinic, to uplift the work that is happening in Minnesota as an example of what true leadership looks like. True leadership looks like encouraging little girls and young women to get abortions." Kamala Harris has never been to the border, which is her job. And she now is gaslighting women into thinking that this is healthcare for women's reproductive rights because it's my body, my choice, despite the fact that you made a choice that led you to this predicament in the first place. People in today's world like to be coddled. They do not want to hear the truth, and they do not want to accept the truth or especially pay the consequences for it. So let's get some definitions, what abortion is and what is considered to be a baby. Abortion is an act to terminate a preborn human life anywhere from after conception until the moment of birth, either through medical, chemical, or physical means. Now, the woke left and Democrats support having an abortion at any time that you want, including after the birth of the baby, which is a human, which is murder. They stand by that. Countless times this has been proven in their statements, in their social media posts, in their speeches, in their talks. They allow you to get an abortion anytime you want. According to the American College of Pediatricians, life starts when sperm and egg bind to each other in a process of fusion of their respective membranes, and a single hybrid cell called a zygote or one-cell embryo is created. During fertilization process, an embryo is created, and that's when the baby starts being formed in your womb. Now, within a few weeks, the baby starts to develop. Its hands, its fingernails, its toes, all the organs inside them. It only takes a few weeks for that process to start. It serves as proof of when life begins and how early babies in mothers' wombs start developing. Let's talk about the first part of this topic before you even get pregnant. We live in a society today that has over-sexualized women and promoted promiscuity. Let's go back in time in history before this became so prevalent like it is today. There are two purposes of sex. The first one is to be able to have babies for procreation. Second reason for having sex is to emotionally connect with your partner. It has been proven in studies with how our brain works that physical intimacy connects us closer to our partner. So those two reasons were why sex was created in the first place. But because of the revolution of everything being over-sexualized and the push for feminism against men, against the family unit, and pro-women, which in reality it is not pro-women at all, has created the need now for abortion. Before, women were not promiscuous or sleeping around unless they were in a married, committed relationship. Now, because of birth control created by Big Pharma in collusion with the government, which I will touch on in a little bit, and now the access to abortion has really impacted women's reproductive rights. Because before, anytime you made a decision, you need to pay consequence for it. But now you do not. Now you can sleep around with the risk of getting pregnant because you are not in a committed relationship. You are not married. You can sleep with how many ever partners you want, and that is actually encouraged, which has a huge effect on women. It's not so simple as people think. Women are not men. We are two different beings. When each person makes a decision, there is a certain consequence that comes out of it. But in this case, it's not. In this case, it's promoted to sleep around for women. It's promoted to be promiscuous. It's your body. It's your choice. You can do whatever you want. And when the result and the consequence is that you get pregnant, now you don't want to pay the consequence. So you either get an abortion. There's a couple really popular ways. First one is actually abortion pills, Big Pharma. And second one is a physical abortion procedure done in a clinic. Before we dive into abortion, let's talk about prevention of pregnancy. So let's talk a little bit about birth control. Birth control is a synthetically made in a lab pharmaceutical pill that stops your natural hormones with synthetic hormones. It has a huge impact on your health. And when you open a box of birth control, the list of ingredients and of possible harm is huge. But nobody cares about that. Nobody cares about the fact that it's damaging women's bodies internally, not only disrupting your hormones and synthetically blocking them and replacing them with other ones, it actually causes physical harm to your body. Think about it. You're swallowing pills that are made in a lab to stop your body's natural cycles of how it functions. Not only it damages the inside of your body, not only damages your hormones, but in many cases, it can actually impact women's future ability to get pregnant because it's a synthetically lab-made drug. So by having access to abortion pills or condoms were all created for profit by Big Pharma and corporations, you can use those now as a preventive measure. But if you weren't sleeping around and being promiscuous in the first place, you wouldn't have to use them, and they are really bad for women's bodies. Now that we briefly covered the topic of birth control, let's continue with abortions. The two most popular ways to get an abortion is to either physically go to the clinic for the abortion procedure, or it is to take prescription medication to get rid of the baby directly at home where it does not require you to go to a clinic. The woke left and the pro-choice, not pro-life supporters, believe that you can get an abortion anytime you want. First one is a suction catheter procedure where it uses a clear tube to pull the baby out of the woman's uterus. Now, this can be used only at the beginning of the few weeks because later the baby is bigger. In the 14 to 24 weeks, now you need to use another instrument. It is called a Sofer clamp, and it is meant to pull out each part of the body of the baby from the woman's uterus. So it has sharp teeth that grasp onto the baby, so you pull out the baby's leg, the baby's arm, the baby's hand, the baby's lungs, the baby's head. Piece by piece, you rip it out from inside of the woman. People will not show young girls and women these images. They do not show you what the procedure is really like and what happens after you discard the baby's body parts on a silver platter. Further add to that, there is actually something called organ harvesting on the black market. People like to live in a fairy tale world, but let's get realistic here. We do know that sex trafficking occurs everywhere, especially within the United States. We know that drug smugglers smuggle drugs across the US border. It takes thousands of lives every year. And we do know that the black market exists for multiple reasons, especially for medicine, with organ harvesting, selling organs on the black market. We know that is very prevalent in areas all over the world. Now, there has been countless evidence, testimonies, people coming forward, articles, pictures, videos as proof that this is occurring, that these organs are being taken from Planned Parenthood and being sold for profit. Now, people believe it, people don't. Let's get realistic here. This is the world we live in. So, of course, this is happening. Now that we spoke a little bit about abortion, let's talk about women's rights. Let's talk about this feminism lie of the woke left that says this is for reproductive rights, this is for women, despite the fact that we as women today have less rights than ever before. We have biological men now invading our spaces as real biological women. We have people who cannot define what a woman is. A woman is a born woman with a uterus as big as a blessing to be able to have children. And no, according to the woke left liberals, men cannot get pregnant or have children. The reason why I'm saying all these things is to get to young girls and women to understand that this brainwashing and indoctrination manipulation is all for a greater purpose. The federal government, this administration in the White House, corporations, Hollywood, social media, movies, TV shows, they all take part in it. They advertise it everywhere as a lie that it's your right to be able to get an abortion anytime you want. My goal in life is to speak to young girls and women to understand that you can create for yourself the best life that you want, to be respected, to be valued, to have morals and class, be a feminine woman, be able to have children, to create a family, to have a husband, and create many generations to come. Because ultimately, that is what is in women's nature, what brings our femininity and makes us the happiest. And for profit, the government and companies want to change the whole society for depopulation purposes, of course, but most importantly, for women not to have babies because they hate women. Think about it. You're stripping everything away from women. You're trying to make women men and trying to get rid of future generations and the society, because the more degenerate society is, as we can see, the more people are brainwashed, indoctrinated. They don't have an education, and for women, they do not have the biggest gift, which is to bring life onto this planet. This administration gaslights people so badly. They say that this is for women's reproductive rights, that they're fighting for women's rights, why they'll change Title IX, allowing biological men to compete with biological women. Where is the logic in that? It doesn't exist because it's all a lie. They're promoting women to sleep around, to be promiscuous, to over-sexualize their bodies, to be essentially used for sex by men that they will never want anything to do with them. So it makes them bitter, and it creates these old women feminists who preach this to young girls and women, which is all a lie. Life is the biggest gift from God. It is so precious, and we should be wanting to have kids, to create families, create the happiest lives for ourselves that we can. And this is not the way to do it. I also wanted to briefly touch on the subject of Black Lives Matter. Now we have woke left Democrats reporting riots, lootings, burning of buildings, crime for Black Lives Matter. Yet Black babies are the most aborted in the United States of America. With nearly 80% of Planned Parenthood abortions, it happens among Black women who are aborting and killing innocent babies in their womb. So when he said Black Lives Matter, by the way, supporting the Black Lives Movement, where the people who started it took millions of dollars for themselves, never helped the Black community, and sold this lie to take out anger and excitement from people to go burn and loot buildings instead of actually caring for Black Lives Matter, which is in women's wombs. For a Black baby, that is the unsafest place possible. And that isn't to blame women. That is to blame the culture, the society, and the indoctrination manipulation they are victims of, including this administration. Summarize, initially went from feminism to now transgender ideologies where biological men can become women and stripping all rights away from real biological women. And by brainwashing, indoctrinating, and manipulating them into believing this feminist lie, we are killing millions of innocent babies in wombs that can become precious children of the future and its generations to come. My goal is to be able to speak to young girls and women to make them understand how abortion is not your only choice, how from the beginning we need to be speaking to young girls and young women, giving them resources, explaining how they should value their bodies, respect themselves, do not sleep around, not to be promiscuous, not to be over-sexualized, because that leads to the degeneracy of all the feminists you see standing on the street, what they're dressed as, what their hair color is, their piercings, their tattoos, their lack of education, lack for value of human life. This is not what we want as women. And the gaslighting and manipulation, lies, and everything that this administration is pushing, especially with this visit, it is all a lie. There are a few things we need to do. We need to educate young girls and young women. We need to explain to them the best lives to live for themselves, how to become feminine. We need to show them how precious human life is, that abortion is not the answer, that they should wait to have these precious babies instead of killing them in their wombs, and expose the lies of everything that is surrounding the topic of abortion, that starts from the government going to corporations. This is all about money. This is billions of dollars every year of revenue. This is millions of lives of little babies being lost. So instead of spending money on your babies, you're going to be spending money on them, being selfish, buying all things that you don't need. Before, you used to be able to feed a family for 5 kids on one income. Now you cannot even feed yourself and pay all your bills and live a decent life on one income. It is all designed on purpose. When you step out of the bubble and realize what is really happening here, this is a part of a much bigger plan. It is the overtaking of our lives by the government, by corporations, instilling greed and selfishness and not valuing human life, and most importantly of all, changing this country and all the future generations to come, because it starts with women, because without women there would be no babies and no future generations. Thank you so much for watching today's video. May God bless you, and may God bless America. I will see you in my next episode.